Hello and welcome to a video with me, Raindale. Today we will be talking about the Glacial raid that's coming. So we'll talk about what we get and then strategies to beat both the normal and the rare raid. Before that, some people have been asking for ways to support the channel. And so in response, I've set up an Amazon affiliate link that you can use when you purchase Viz. The link is in the description below. So using Amazon coins will generally save you up to 20% on your Viz purchases. So it's really good. It's only available from the US in my understanding. But if you guys want to support this channel, go ahead and use my link. Otherwise, please support one of the many talented content creators that we have for War of the Visions. There are a lot of them, and it really helps their channels. So I recommend you do that at the very least. And so, moving on to this video. First, a couple words about raids. In general, in raids for War of the Visions, you will have enough orbs that are generated for the raid to be able to get a +5 piece of equipment, even if you don't clear it in one shot every time. So you don't have to stress to set up the perfect auto team that can clear level 100 bosses by themselves. If it takes your team 2 attempts, you will still be fine and get the +5 pieces of equipment in the end, if that is what you desire. And then bonus units are very fun. They will give you more medals and more points, but they are not mandatory to craft the item. If you want to go for a high ranking and get one of the unique titles, then you should definitely use a bonus unit. But otherwise, I would not stress too much about that. It's a nice bonus, but it's definitely not necessary. And then if you're a newer player and you don't know how raids work, I have made a video for that in the past, so I'll put a description in the link below, so you can watch that to just learn how raids work in general, but because this video will not be going into the raid mechanic, but rather this specific raid. So what's the reward? This time it's a heavy armor, the Brigandine. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. In French it's Brigandine, but the English translation I'm not too sure. It is a great piece of gear. If you are a newer player, I would recommend you at least get one recipe or a couple, so you can craft a +0 or a +1. This has a ton of HP, and then a really high amount of defense as well. So even a +0 will make your heavy armor wielder much tankier. And then if you guys do farm it all the way to a +5, you're also getting 10 AoE resistance, which is very good for a piece of gear. This will be top tier on King Mont if you're going for the AoE resistance build, since it's just that much more AoE resist that is going to stack with every other source. So I would definitely recommend that people farm at least a couple recipes to craft +0 armors if they don't want to go all in on the raid. And then if you are going all in, craft a +5. This is one of the pieces of gear that I think you will not regret. My intention is to build a shield version for the high defense, since that's what seems the best to me at the current time. Okay, let's look at the first boss. It's the Glacial. First of all, this is a bird type enemy, so it's not Esper Killer for this specific buff. If you want to use killers, it is Bird Killer. This guy has 80 agility, which is not the highest among raid bosses. He has 20 spirit and 0 defense, so he'll be weaker to physical attacks in general over magical attacks. Then he is an ice type, so fire attacks are especially effective against him, and he's weak to slashing and no other damage type. So slashing is the way to go. He doesn't have resistance to other elements that much, except for wind. So you could set up slashing chains that are not fire type and still be pretty much fine. But there are a few things to be wary. First of all, you cannot use status effects on this guy. You cannot use CT changes, so no steal time, no stop, no slow, and you cannot break his agility either. So he will go at whatever speed he goes. You cannot influence that. And then he has some abilities, or one at least, that does an AoE stop to your team. So you have to be very wary of that, because stop in a raid will completely screw you over. So you need to make sure that whatever characters you bring into this fight have either stop resistance or a way to gain stop resistance. The chance for Glacial's stop ability is only 25%, so a 25 stop resistance will make you immune to his stop attack. Then, when the boss is at level 100, he becomes virtually immune to missile attacks, so that's something to take into account. You cannot build missile chains or fight him using missile, and he himself will be using mainly magic and strike-based ice attacks. So ice resistance is the way to go to mitigate his damage, but also magic resistance will give you a lot of benefit. Glacial's basic attacks are piercing type, but I don't view the basic attacks as the biggest threat from a raid. Really, their abilities are usually much more threatening. Alright, so the first team comp, which I think will be the best against the Glacial raid, is Fire Slashing. And the best unit will probably be King Mont. He can tank the boss's attacks pretty well. He has init stop resistance, so you don't have to worry about that. And then he can use slash resistance down. So he really has a perfect kit to fight the boss. As a ninja sub-job, he can also use 3-hit slash fire chain attacks. So there's that. And then in the JP side, I've heard of King Mont's being able to solo the boss. So I don't think you will need to take 4 characters necessarily. Perhaps King Mont and Rain will be able to duo the boss. We'll have to wait and see, but just like the Diabolos raid, I am expecting a lot of 2-man parties to be able to beat him. Overall though, there are a lot of characters that have fire slash attacks. You can use those. I think the best partner for King Mont will probably be Rain, because he can reduce fire resistance and also use 3-hit fire slash chain attacks. Delita can also reduce fire resistance though, so you have a couple options there. Then to survive the boss's attacks, well, you can use AoE resistance from King Mont's TMR. Most of Glacial's abilities are AoE, so that's the biggest threat for you. Then since he has magic attacks, the Phoenix Vision card, or Fenrir if you don't want to go for the Phoenix Vision card, but that will provide your characters with magic resistance up, so that's pretty good. And the Ifrit card, which you probably want to use for offense anyways, but that also provides your team with ice resistance up 20 for fire characters, so that means Glacial will have a lot less damage that he can do to your team. Then for stop resistance, as I mentioned, you will be getting AoE stopped frequently, so you need ways to resist that. The Ifrit Esper, if you get him to 3-star, will give your character 25 stop resist, thus making this character immune to the stop effect from the boss. And then if you farm the ribbon back when it was released, the ribbon at level 50 provides whoever wears it with a 25 stop resist, thus making this character also immune to the stop. Otherwise, a lot of characters have maxed out Frederica, but her TMR is kind of forgotten all the time. But what the Victory Ribbon from Frederica does is it allows the character wearing it to immune somebody to a couple status effects, including stop for 3 turns. So you have to cast it preventively. It will not cure stop, but it will prevent it for a couple turns, and that has 2 casts, so you can cast it on 2 different characters. So that's another way to protect your team against stop if you don't have the other options. Then for offense, I like using TMRs with AoE buffs. Obviously, Bells will be great. Kaleido Moon from Medina will give you a AoE attack and magic buff, and also increase your acquired AP, so you can use more abilities. And then Miranda's TMR, the Red Jacket, will also give an increased slash attack to all your guys. So that's pretty good if you're using a slash party. You could go for King Rob's TMR for that. There are a lot of options, but I like thinking of my TMR slots as AoE buffs to my team for raids. And then the recent Vision card that features King Mont has increased damage limit for fire teams. I think if you're using only EX units, you might not need the damage limit up, because EX units already have that in their kit. But if you're using 99 units, you might hit the cap frequently, and that card will allow you to deal a lot more damage. If you don't have it, there are MR Mind Flayer Vision card, or the UR Two-Headed Dragon Vision card that you can use to increase your damage limit, so there's a lot of options. Now, what if you don't have the Fire Slash team? Well, I think Slash team in general will do very well against the boss nonetheless. We have a couple ways to reduce Slash resistance now. There's Gilgamesh, there's regular Stern, King Mont if you have him, and you can also increase your team's overall damage by reducing the boss's single target resistance using Yerma's limit break if you want to. So there are a couple good options there. Then you want to take whoever hits the hardest, ideally characters with multi-hit attacks, in order to chain cap the boss and deal a ton of damage. Runestern is a good option. Tidus with his limit break, and then he just generally hits super hard. Oron also has those, so bring whoever hits the hardest with slash attacks, and you should be fine. In terms of defense here, you will want to use the Fenrir Esper if you're struggling with the amount of damage the boss deals. Magic resistance will help you. Still the same options for stop resistance, but I do want to point out that Gilgamesh is immune to stop, so you don't have to worry about him. And then for offense, we're looking at these same options, but I did add the Rubius card. That's an MR card that doesn't really see much play, but it gives a party ability of 20 Ice Killer, so that will increase whatever type of damage you deal as long as you're hitting the boss. Now, let's look at the rare boss, and I think he's not as big a threat this time around. That guy is slower than Glacial at 75 agility, he's got 10 defense and 0 spirit, but the damage types that he's weak to really tailor him towards being taken down by physical attacks. He is weak to slash, he is weaker to pierce, and then he's weak to lightning. Obviously 9S will be a great character against him. You can slow him, but you cannot steal time or break his agility. And then this guy will use mainly single target attacks against your team, so that's why I feel like he's less of a threat. His single target attacks will frequently silence you though, so using mages against him might be risky. And then he mainly uses magic and strike water-based attacks. He is a water-type dragon. His normal attack is a typeless attack, but again, I'm not very threatened by the boss's basic attacks. So how do you take down the mini dragon? First of all, I think the slash team comp that I showed for Glacial will still apply to him. Don't use the Rubius card and you won't need the stop resist, but this guy is still weak to slashing, so overall you can probably use a very similar team, just take out your fire units and try to kill him with other elements. But specifically for him, you could go for a lightning chain. He is weak to lightning and pierce, but also lightning and slash, so any kind of combination you use among those will deal a lot of damage. 9S is obviously a really good character for that. He can use lightning slash chains, or if you're doing pierce, he can imperil pierce attacks and then just deal a lot of damage overall. He's really, really good. Orlando can reduce lightning resistance, so that's a good option overall, and also decrease defense. If you don't have him though and you want to decrease lightning resistance, you can also use Sakura, but be careful, she might get silenced and then be in a bit of trouble, so there's that. Then how do you survive the boss? Well, this boss has single target attacks, so I think you should just put hate on one of your guys and then tank his attacks, and then you don't need to worry about the rest of your team. A good way of doing that would be using the Vow of Love card, which has the added bonus of giving 30% attack to everybody else. Then in terms of offense, well, you have, like most raids, you want to go fast and you want to hit hard, so that's all there is to it. You might want the Black Rose card for agility. If you are not running Vow of Love, you could use the Astrologer card for attack and acquired AP up, and then if you put that on 9S or a Spear user, you'll have another option to reduce the boss's defense. Aigaion provides some accuracy slash attack up if you're going for the slash build, and then yeah, just as much damage as you want. Another way of taking down the boss might be using Pierce Chains. So he's very weak to piercing, so you can just use whatever spear user you have and try to deal as much damage to him as you can. 9S, if he's at 120, can imperil piercing resistance. Otherwise, you can bring Kane and reduce that if you have Kane. Then Glaciala will build Pierce Chains with multi-hit attacks, and then her Limit Burst also caps chains with increased maximum damage. Alim, also another really nice Pierce user. And then really, I won't list them all. There are a lot of characters with Dragoon or Lancer subjobs, so you can use whoever you want. I do like the idea of bringing in Warrior of Light though, because he can generate hate and thus be the only target that the boss will have, and then he can use Dragoon abilities to possibly hit the boss with pierce attacks as well. Then in terms of offensive vision cards, I did not put much change there. Really, the same thing is going to be strong. So overall, that's it. These videos are always a little bit long because there's so much to cover about a raid. But hopefully this gave you guys some ideas and will help you prepare a little bit for the raid that's coming this week. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. It will make it more likely that you see my content in the future. And then thank you so much for your time and have a great rest of your day.